speakers and
Welcome to Leveraging Inspiration, the Inspired Patent Podcast, where we help you understand and leverage your intellectual property. I'm your host, Wayne Carroll, and I'm excited to bring you insights and stories from the success and failures of others. I always start with a disclaimer. Nothing in this podcast should be construed as creating an attorney-client relationship. We are not providing legal advice. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. This week, we're talking about the internal company IP processes. And in this episode, we're going to talk about creating your intellectual property team. Who do you need on your team and what do they need to do? Creating an IP team is like assembling a superhero squad to protect and maximize the value of your intellectual property. Let's explore who you need on your team and what they need to do to ensure your small business is equipped for success. It is crucial that if you're going to innovate and grow, that you understand intellectual property and who needs to be on the team and what they need to be doing. Who are the experts you need and what are they going to do for you? Of course, I'm a patent and trademark attorney, and I encourage you to have a patent and trademark attorney on your team. They're going to help you implement the strategies that you come up with. The IP attorney may or may not fill more than one of these roles, depending on what you choose to do and how you decide to form your team. So the main goal of the intellectual property attorney is to make sure the rights are protected properly through agreements, through filings in the trademark office, filings in the patent office. And then if there's infringement issues, that they make sure that those infringement cases get moved forward and make sure that litigation is started if needed, and give good advice on what makes sense for the cost of litigation, the cost of enforcement, and the cost of protection, as well as timing and all those other issues. The next person on your superhero intellectual property team is an IP strategist or consultant. If you have an internal person, this can work great. And sometimes a member of your team may fill this role as one of many hats that they wear. And they can help you develop a comprehensive IP strategy that aligns with your business objective. If you have that position and it's not filled by your patent attorney, they need to communicate that strategy with the patent attorney, communicate what are the goals, what are the budgets around those goals, so that things can work as best as possible to accomplish those goals within the budget. So the IP strategist can help align the timing and the strategy. That can be done by a patent attorney as well. A lot of large companies will go through a process, as I mentioned in a previous episode this week, of quarterly looking at what new ideas, what inventions should they file, should they start the process that quarter, and then mapping out what else is needed, what's the time frame, what's the budget for those things. Keeping track of all that can be done internally in a company so that they have control of that internally. An IP portfolio manager would also be tracking what licenses you have. You may need to take licenses for other people's intellectual property and keeping track of those. When does the intellectual property that they have expire? You don't want to pay licenses for technology that is no longer under intellectual property protection. A proper agreement should end when that technology runs out, but making sure that if you do need that technology for your business and it hasn't run out, that you keep getting a license so you don't end up infringing and operating without a license to other people's technology and intellectual property. Of course, you're going to need inventors and innovators on your team. As we discussed in a previous episode, you might be able to recruit all of your employees to be your innovators, to be your inventors, to submit ideas, and let them know that it's not just the engineers that can come up with ideas. Anyone in the company can come up with an idea that can be implemented. And if it's the type of idea that should be patented, then their name could end up as the inventor on a patent application. So they're, of course, a vital role. You can't get a patent without naming an inventor. You have to say who conceived of the idea, one or more persons. It can't just be a company in the United States. It needs to be an actual individual person. IP portfolio manager might be the person who is managing those invention disclosures, those submission of ideas into the company's portal and organizing them, collaborating with, if somebody has a great idea, then you bring them in and say, we're going to go forward with your idea. Let's flesh that out. Let's get it ready for disclosure to the patent attorneys, or we're going to send out searching. Companies that have enough work for attorneys, sometimes they will have an in-house attorney that might do the patent searches or review patent searches. If you're not that big, then you need the outside attorney to be doing that. IP portfolio manager might be the person who's also coordinating those searches, the results of those searches, reporting to the team of, here's how the search came back, here's what they recommend for a decision. It's going to be a team effort between the IP strategist and the IP portfolio manager with the new technology of where are we at in the process, and tracking those and saying, at what point do we say yes or no, and having those steps set up of knowing this is the point where we say yes or no to go forward with a project. Another person you're going to want on your team hopefully is a technology transfer officer, licensing specialist. It's great when you can find ways to license your technology to others where they get the benefit of your innovation and you get paid for that, typically based on what their success is. So you're partnering together. You want them to succeed so that you can get more money from their use of your intellectual property and your technology. A technology transfer officer, licensing specialist is going to help negotiating the license agreements. And this may also be necessary if you're in a technology area where you're going to end up needing to license technology from others. Some of the things a patent and trademark attorney may be doing is helping you research whether your technology needs a license from others. It's called a freedom to operate search, where you search to see, is there someone with a patent that I'm going to need to license? If I can't develop my technology without using their technology, if I'm building on top of it, I'm going to need a license from them. Understanding who that is and negotiating deals with them is part of the technology transfer officer's job. This can be done by an attorney, an outside counsel. You may be able to have somebody internally. It may be a hat that one of your people, one of the leaders of your company is going to take on. And of course, conducting due diligence. If you're going to license technology from others, you want to make sure that who you're working with is a good partner, their intellectual property is solid, that they actually have the rights they say they do, and that they're actually going to work well with you and they don't have any red flags and licensing people and quickly suing them after, anything like that. So to create your intellectual property team, you're going to need to assess your needs. This is going to be, of course, an individualized team, but these are some of the roles that I've discussed that you want to come up with. You can start by working and you can start by having a free consultation with attorneys at my law firm, Inspired Idea Solutions Law Firm, to determine who could do what on the team. How much is going to be done by the attorney? How much is going to be done by members of your team, and or whether we want to bring in other people that are going to be consultants or contractors to fill some of these roles. And once you have decided who's going to do what, make it really clear. Educate your team and establish a regular meeting schedule, whether that's a Slack channel, a regular Zoom meeting. I worked with Bose for the speaker company as an intern, and they had regular meetings where their outside attorney came in on a regular basis. I think it was twice a month, and discussed where are things at, the progress of things. So they had a meeting with their IP team on a regular basis to make sure they were getting projects moved forward as best they could, overcoming the problems and discussing what needed to be done next. Also, subscribe to this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. It's Leveraging Inspiration. It's also live on ibgr.network on Fridays at 3 p.m. I'm Wayne Carroll, and this is Leveraging Inspiration. You've been listening to Leveraging Inspiration, the Inspired Patent Podcast. We are live on ibgr.network at 3 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. You can also find us anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Our show today is sponsored by Inspired Idea Solutions Law Firm, an IP boutique law firm where we put your strategy first, use a proven process for success, and guarantee zero hidden fees. You can find us on the web at z3ip.com. That is Z as in zebra, the number 3, and IP as in intellectual property.com.
Probably folks don't need to run their pool pumps or things like that, right? There are a lot of things that can be optimized, and this is really